Bhadram karnebhi shrnuyama devaha Bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaihi tushtuvagam sastanubhihi Vyashema devahitam yadayuhu Svastina indro vardhashravaha Svastina pusha vishwavedaha Svastina starkshyo arishtanemihi Svastino brahaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, a valid question is that on one hand we say you're not a doer, and on the other hand we say do what is to be done, and things bother you, and you find yourself going back into, doing the improvement. Okay, so see, let's put it two categories. Let's just put the part where you contribute. The body naturally gives as it always has been giving. And it's always been working on itself. Look at this. If you, the body as a body mind, are not working on yourself, what will you be doing? You'd be doing something else. So the door is always there. Okay? So all we're doing is redirecting that mechanism of the door into something that is a lot more harmonious with nature than letting that door be run by its own past notions. Amidst the doing, there is I, who is unaffected by that. The door is always going to be there. We're not eliminating the door.
So it's about being affected in a practical, objective way of being affected in the old way.
Yeah, so in other words, the way of response is being refined. Because naturally, there is a person who has a need to improve. This is part of evolution. Can't stop this. The person will refine their responses. They will find ways to resolve conflict, find ways to, and be invested in making wise decisions.
And at the same time, knowing who I am, I realize it's a totally different view on this doer doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But then it's about the balance or the identification, because I can feel myself going straight back into the old ahankara, guilt.
Yeah. See, this going straight back, this is very common. It's normal. Don't take yourself hard on this. This is what we call the deha vasana, going back into the body's orientations, right? I have to do this, and it's true. There is a absolute need to do it, but the relationship to doing starts to change. And that relationship is a very, doing has to be done. If you put this body in a conflict, the body will do whatever it has to do to resolve the conflict. You know how to drive a car, don't you?
Well, actually, no.
Okay. Okay.
I have my license.
Okay. That failed. That example failed. Okay. Bicycle?
I drive bicycle to bike.
Okay. You see, even when you're, solving, whatever life challenges, and you're not thinking about the bicycle, that bicycle knowledge is always there. It doesn't get erased. Okay? So your door doesn't contradict, doesn't remove or affect your bicycle knowledge. So in that same way, the door, the person called Modita and the mind called Monita has to do, has to deal, has to sort out conflicts, has to refine its responses, or not has to, but gets to, that's a better word, it gets to refine its responses, gets to participate in the discussions and, take on these daivi sampas, these qualities, and incorporate them. And throughout that process, That's what we do. If we don't do that, we do something else.
You said there are two methods to go to the truth, and one is putting on the knowledge, and the second one, and then John said, there is no creation.
Yeah.
And that's where I got lost.
So the first one, deliberate superimposition, that's where all this is an effect of the cause. So the tree is an effect. Do you see the tree's cause? Do I see, what's the cause of the tree? The intelligence that was inside that seed. Do I see the intelligence in a tree? I don't. I see leaves. I see greenery, I see leaves. I don't see intelligence. So we say the tree is an effect, and its cause is that intelligence which was inside that little seed that you took for granted. You just threw on the side, you know. So the intelligence is in there. So that's the first method. Now, where you get confused is a different kind of example, which is an example of ornament and gold. If I take a ring and I look at it from a distance, what do I call that? I call it ring. Now put that ring all the way here, where you can't see the boundaries. You can't see the roundness. Put it right here. Is it a ring now? No. It's just, so in other words, you only call it a ring because you're looking at it from a certain standpoint. But upon analysis, through analysis of it, of that ring, you see it's nothing but the gold. It's not a ring. It's gold taking a form of what we then call a ring. Wherever there is a ring, there is right there gold. What is more there, Christoph? Is the ring more there, or is the gold there more? The gold is there more than the ring. Why is the gold there more than the ring is?
The ring can dissolve.
It can dissolve, it can melt. In other words, the ring had no existence apart from its substance. So what's more real, the ring or the gold?
The gold.
The gold. Same thing. Example number 2, what's more real? The world, which is mithya, or its substance? Its substance is more real. That's what we want to say, example number 2.
And where does it say there's no creation?
Well, there's no creation. See, what has really been created? Because created means it wasn't there before. But if there's only substance, is anything really created?
No.
In that sense, there's no creation.
So there's creation of it. It's just a manifestation and dissolution, manifestation, dissolution.
Yeah, and even when it dissolves, that potential is also none other than the substance. So don't think this potential, which we call knowledge and power, is one thing and Brahman is another. The potential is Brahman, but Brahman is free of the potential. That's why Brahman, that's why awareness can be free and manifest as anything at the same time. If it was stuck being the potential, then it couldn't manifest. If it was manifest, then it couldn't unmanifest it and produce something else. Section 2, light of all lights. So this verse 3 and 4, bow and arrow, meditating on the Om. Dhanuhu grhitva aupanishadam maha astram sharam hi upasa nishitam sandhayita ayam yatat bhavagatena chetasa lakshyam tat eva aksharam somya vidhi pranavaha dhanuhu sharaha hi atma brahma tat lakshyam uchyate apramatena vedhavyam sharavatat mayaha bhavet. Okay, before explaining this verse, close eyes please. We're going to do Om meditation. We're going to divide this Om into 3 letters, A, U, and M. And when we say, while we're saying while saying this you're going to be including everything in the waking state in that So whatever, including you, the one who's doing that meditation is also going to be included in the waking state. This is the waking state. So let's practice. Remember, keep including everything you can possibly think of in the waking state. Like, let your mind scan it all. Including yourself. Now, when we say ooh, you're going to be including the dreamer. So that means when the dreamer is there, when you, the dreamer, that is going to be included in ooh. The you, the dreamer, you dreamer. You dreamer. Now, when we say the you sleeper, the one that is in deep sleep. That's enough. Now let's start again with This time, the total physical universe will be included, which is Virat. Include all of the lokas, all worlds, all beings, everything that is physical. Now when we do U, we're going to include the total saro, the Hiranyagarbha, the total blueprint. Your mind is noting of all knowledge and all power while saying U. Again. And finally, it will be the total causal. Now we're going to that potential. Remember, when bulges, there's a potential. So that means things that are yet to come and have already occurred. Pause. Now we're going to combine AUM into and all three of these, either the waker you, the sleeper you, and the dreamer you, or the total physical, the total subtle, and all of the potential, each one of them choose one of them. And when we pause, that pause is a symbol for Brahman, that into which everything resolves. Pause. Pause. Om. All resolves into Brahman. Now, instead of Om, A-Um, Aum. Remember, most important, mentally note either the you waker, you dreamer, you sleeper, or the total physical, total subtle, and the causal. In other words, the potential. Choose one of them now. Got it? Great. Pause. Open eyes. What does Om mean? Welcome back. Om comes from root AV, which means to protect. So Om means the one who protects us all, the one who sustains our life, the one who guides us in every decision, the one that enables life to be, the protector, to protect or to bless. To protect or to bless. Comes from the root AV, which means to protect or to bless. The one who blesses the universe with life. It is said that chanting Om, you're invoking all aspects of the Lord at once. That is why whenever we start a mantra, we always start with Om, and then we invoke a specific deity like Gam Ganapataye Namaha, which is to help us overcome challenges. But before that, we invoke the Lord, Om. And how does this work? The word Om is actually A-U-M. Now, it is said that when you chant Ah, the first thing, mothers, what's the first sound that comes from a baby? Ah. The first sound that comes from when you open your mouth is Ah. Ah is the very first sound when your mouth effortlessly opens. It's an effortless sound. Ah. The letter M, okay, let's do a little exercise. I want you to say with your mouth closed right now, say the letter P. P, let's go. How about Q? Q. Now say M. That is the only letter that can be said when the mouth is closed. And everything in between is a symbol for everything in between, every other possible sound. What does this mean? It includes every possible phonetic combination in every language, every possible sound, and every sound represents every name and form. Every name and form is none other than Ishvara. This Om, A-U-M, includes every possible combination of sound, every name and form. Therefore, it is the most perfect syllable for Ishvara. Do you understand now why we say Om? What is a proper way to chant Om? There is some dispute over this. Some teachers say Om, other teachers say Aum. I personally have tried both. They both work for me. My question is, have you seen both versions for yourself? However, and whatever works for you, tune into that. That is your style. Swami Dayananda says, specifically, it's Om. Other equally credible teachers say it's Aum. Andre says they're both. Okay? Because Om is nothing but Aum, combined with sandhi, it is Om. As long as it represents everything in your mind, that is more important. The three letters A-U-M represent A, waker, U, dreamer I, M, sleeper I. In Sanskrit we call this Vishwa, is it Vishwa? Taijasa and Prajna. Or you can convert it into the macro, which is total. A means total. Physical, yeah, total physical, yeah. Physical, whose name is Virat. The waker is total subtle, which is the blueprint, Hiranyagarbha. And sleeper is a total potential. The name was Anam. And into what does it resolve into? Om. Into Turiya, which just means fourth. Why fourth? Because you got 3. If you had 10, that still be 11th. In other words, it is other than the 3. Therefore, it's called the fourth, i.e. Brahman. Then it says, this meditation is, the Om is like a bow, and the mind is like an arrow. And the target is Brahman. So this means, if one chooses to, can sit down, close eyes, and nothing but Om is required for meditating upon this knowledge. So whenever we close our eyes, now note, mentally note, into what does it resolve? That is Brahman. And then again arises from Brahman, like this constantly. Okay? Therefore, this is one of the best tools that Upanishad has for meditating on this knowledge.
Do you visualize also that, or you don't need to?
Mentally note, mentally include it. If you visualize it, that's fine. Yeah, but it's a contemplation tool. And any contemplation will involve mental activity. Therefore, it is a mental activity exercise.
You're using the mind to calm down the mind.
And not only that, it's going to calm down your mind, just like japa, repetition. Verse 7 and 8. Yaha sarvajnaha sarvavityasya esha mahima bhuvi divye brahmapurehi esha vyomni atma pratishtitaha manomayaha prana sharira neta pratishtitaha ane hridayam sanidhaya tat vijnanena paripashyanti dhiraha anandarupam amritam yat vibhati. Purusha is sarvajna, is all knowledge and all power. Okay, because everything comes from the one source. Now, the next part, it says, when you understand this Purusha, your mula vidya is removed. Mula vidya is this core issue has been solved. That means my identity has now been resolved, right? I know who I am. I'm this very Purusha. That means the ignorance of I has been removed. But then it's got tula vidya, which is secondary ignorance. So this is primary ignorance. So everyone's born with primary ignorance, okay? But also everyone's born with secondary ignorance. Secondary ignorance is, see, even if you know your nature as consciousness awareness, you still have ignorance, your mind still has ignorance about so many things. Therefore, a wise person has resolved mula vidya, but still has secondary ignorance. Still doesn't know many things in this world. Still makes errors. And if you have, look at this, if you have tula vidya, secondary ignorance, are you going to ever be perfect? Ta-da! Then it continues and it says, the self abides in the shining city of Brahman, Buddhi. Why is this kind of important? Because it lets you know it's okay to speak like this. We don't have to be completely analytical and logical about it. City of Brahman. So it kind of shakes you up, not to be so serious about these things. And how does this consciousness show up? As the very thought, the gap or the silence. And it shows up as the sakshi of both the thought and the silence. There is a presence in whom a thought arises and because of which silence is recognized also. Because if awareness or I was silence, when silence goes, I would go. In thoughts, I don't go in silence. Therefore, I am that which is the sakshi, the foundation, the kutastha, the anvil. In other words, what do you knock upon the anvil? You knock thoughts and you sculpt them and you change them, but you also knock silence. Verse 9, the knower of Brahman. Vidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante cha asya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. So when Brahman is recognized, three major transformations occur. Avidya, what was the ignorance before the transformation? And that was I was good as one of the many. I saw myself as an ornament. In other words, I couldn't generally understand how am I one with all things. There was no such understanding. It was intellectual. I heard of it. You are one. But it wasn't embodied. There was no relaxation about it. There was no just not needing to even understand what that means. It's just obvious. So the ornament is no longer seen as an ornament. Its truth is gold. When I say obvious, what do I mean by that? There's always an unchanging presence. That is obvious. Now you say this to an unwise person, they will be a little bit confused. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why it takes some time. To the wise person, awareness, the unchanging, that which doesn't interfere with my mind's experience, the non-interfering presence, non-verbalized. It's non-interfering, it's non-verbalized. You don't need to verbalize my presence. If awareness interfered with your thoughts, what would happen? By the time a thought of awareness comes, it would push it away. Second is kama, desire. How do you know that you have self-realized according to the verse? My need to become someone is not there. There may still be a need to continue improving, but to become someone because of that has gone away. And karma. That means the improvement in the name of self that is gone. A better way to understand this is I stop improving myself to complete myself. Your 10 years of education, you completed that. I still feel me, equally me, as I felt when I began. The need to become, the need to complete myself, that is gone. Amidst that, improvement continues because that is evolution. And two types of doubts as a result of this are thus removed. Doubts about how to know something, and two, doubts about what is to be known. Doubt about how to know. Well, how do I know this? Where do I go? It's very simple now. How do I know? I know it through the scriptures, through the guru, through the methodology, through the pramana. That is how I know it. I know it through Vedanta. In other words, the seeker is no longer going from here to there to know it. They know it. It's knowledge and requires discernment. What is to be known? There's no more doubt about that. Before, you're I'm not sure. See, I remember in my early years, even though they say awareness is the final reality, I still thought there were levels of awareness. So I thought, yeah, but okay, I get that, I hear you. But what is there is that level of awareness, like Buddha's awareness, that's what I want to attain. So I didn't know, even though I knew awareness is to be attained, recognized, I still didn't know what kind of awareness to be recognized. I thought there was levels to it. So now for the wise person, they know that this ordinary presence that is most familiar, always available, that is to be known. Therefore, what is to be known? We'll call it presence. Consequently, having thus removed, 3 kinds of karmas are resolved. That means you no longer have this punya papam, sanchita. So remember we talked about all of your things that are yet to come. That means your life tomorrow. Think of sanchita as your total bank account. What kind of money do you have in your bank? Suppose it's black money, but you also have clean money. You have a mixture of black money and clean money. And I need some money. If I go to the ATM, what kind of money will I get? The money that is inside my total bank account. Therefore, the sanchita is filled with punya, that means good money, and papam, black money. And so, every life, a portion of good money and black money gets withdrawn into your present life account for the next 90 years, and we call this your prarabdha, the section of punya and papam that is assigned for this life. And you get just enough punya and papam so that the person doesn't commit suicide. Because if you take all the papam for one life, that would be a very hard life. The person would see there's no point of living. Sanchita, by the way, means well collected. It's also because nothing goes unaddressed. Everything is monitored. Everything is tracked. There's an archive. You got a great archive, you know. It says Nitin's archive. Page one kills mosquito. Right. And so all of that gets, portion of that gets into prarabdha, which means begun. That means something that is begun right now, and that makes up your life, what you're experiencing today. Now, prarabdha tends to come out at different stages of life. If you're a teenager, if you are below 20, wait. Wait, okay? Usually, your prarabdha starts to come through, right? As the life progresses. Okay? That's why we experience different stages in life. And again, it depends on what we do with it. It's not about what happens to you. It's about what you do with what happens to you. So what do I do now? So now someone starts with a disadvantage, and they look around and say, I don't want to be like this. I want to make something of my life. And someone starts, with pleasure. They got all the entitlements, and they always get paid for. And they say, I don't need to share. I've got everything. So they lose their humility. So like you say, even the punyam can cost someone, if it's not used carefully, humility, basic empathy. So there's really no way of kind of saying it is good or bad. There's a story where, I said it before, I'll say it again, of 2 little kids who were going to a movie theater, and they came back from the movie theater, and they were going nearby a temple. Now one of the kids was an atheist, and the other was a devotee of the Lord. They were both about 8 years old. And the devotee said, hey friend, just wait for me here. I'm going to go in the temple and do a prayer. And the atheist said, oh, you fool, who are you praying to? These gods, they don't listen to. If God was really listening, there would be no suffering on earth. Everything would be perfect. It's a typical thing that you would say, right? And, the friend felt a little bit discouraged, but still went inside the temple. And now the other atheist kept walking, and he found like a really nice golden coin. And he was just ecstatic, like, I found a golden coin. But then the devotee, when he finished his prayers, came down the stairs of the temple and tripped over and hurt his knee. And the friend saw that from the distance. And so as they came together, the atheist said, you see, you trip over, you believe in God, you pray to God, and all you get is you trip over the stairs. Whereas me, I don't believe in this nonsense, and look what I found. I found a golden coin. Now, while they were saying that to each other, and of course the kid almost got converted into an atheist now, but the nearby seer heard this conversation and said, boys, come over here. And he says, you see, who found the golden coin, last life, you did certain things, because he was clairvoyant, so he could see their life. Last life, you never served people. You did something, but you didn't serve. You were basically all for yourself. You were self-centered generally. And because of that, you only found a golden coin. Whereas your friend, because of the life that he had previously, he could have tripped over and he could have broke his leg. He could have, had a major injury, but he only got a small scar because of the life that he lived, the pious life he lived previously. And you only found a golden coin, whereas you could have found a golden treasure, but you didn't because of your past life. Yeah, it's very relative, you see? So you can't quite tell whether it's good or bad. Prarabdha karma is like getting on a train, and you want the train to stop, but it's not going to stop, because there is a conductor who has authority over whether the train stops or not. Once you get on your train, once you step in the body, the train has to go from its start to the end. It doesn't stop. If you got on a train with monkeys, you're gonna have to put up with monkeys, because that is your prarabdha karma train. That's why you can even have wise people who can greatly suffer, because their prarabdha karma train, even though they came with papam, they asked, what now? They made their life into something. They recognized their truth as Brahman, but their train is still full of monkeys. So they still go through a life of financial difficulties, of not getting, this or that, basic things they're not getting.
And it also depends on the prarabdha karma whether the wise guy would teach the monkeys or not, right?
Yes, it does. Okay. I mean, if his or her disposition, if they have that talent, right? Because monkeys need a special language to listen, right? Or suppose you were driving like a madman and you stepped on an accelerator, right? This is your car, this is your body. And all this life you're just stepping on, I don't care about the rules, driving, and suddenly, right, you recognize your nature. And now you let go, the door lets go of the gas, but there's no brake on that car. What are you going to do now? You still got to bear the crazy driving, which you've done before. You still got to be in your vehicle, and now you're really going to have a hard time steering. You don't have a lot of time to steer. That means you have to still go through the journey of all of the things that person before knowledge took place has done. That's prarabdha karma. You can't stop it. And only when the car finally comes to stop, that's called physical death. Okay, and finally, agami, future. So every time you act, you generate new causes in the field, and those new causes go in your sanchita, because sanchita is your bank account. The wise person's I, where was their I? In their sanchita karma. My identity was in all of the good things I've done in my life. I am a sinner, I am virtuous. I am a wise person, I am a sinner. So I thought I was a sinner. Therefore, I got reborn to repent. Now, my I is much greater than sanchita karma. Thus, sanchita karma, I am free of sanchita karma, and sanchita karma is what produces a new body-mind. How do we know? Because sanchita karma, we said, is a bank account of punya and papam, which produces pleasure and pain. Who is not experiencing pleasure and pain in this life? right? We all are. Therefore, this body-mind thus gets created to play out this punya papam in a sanchita. Now, I am no longer bound by this sanchita, thus there is nobody to give me another form. What gave me the all-pervasive Aksharam Brahma a form? What gave that? Sanchita karma belonging to Andre, belonging to your name. Na tatra suryaha bhati, na chandra tarakam, na imaha vidyutaha bhanti, kutaha ayam agnihi. Tam eva bhantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. So the sun does not light up Brahman, nor the moon, nor the stars. Na tatra suryaha bhati, na chandra tarakam. The sun does not light up consciousness, but because of consciousness, the sun exists. And then Brahman is the light of all lights, Jyotisham Jyotihi. Okay, look at this. Brahman is the light of all lights. Your turn. What's the difference between Brahman light and physical light? Brahman is the cause. Okay, what else? Physical light shines after. Light changes and disappears. Because of consciousness, the light exists. More answers. Brahman is no light. Okay, what is the physical light shining right now? This physical body. Can the physical light shine my desires? So physical light cannot shine, cannot reach those places that the light of Brahman can. It's all pervasive. There is no place where Brahman's light does not reach.
Can you state it shines even when it's dark?
Exactly, because there's no physical light to illumine the darkness, but presence of consciousness illumines darkness. Everything shines after that self alone. We've done this example, remember? The object shines because of light. Light shines because of eyes, because the eyes are there. The eyes shine because of the mind. If the mind is not available, then the eyes cannot see. And the mind shines because of that light, which also shines the contents of the mind, the light that never sleeps. Now also, there's just one more at the individual level. It says, Suryaha Chandraha Agnihi. The sun represents eyesight. Can Brahman be seen with eyesight? No. Rather, Brahman is because of which, or it enables eyesight. And then moon. Moon represents the mind. Can the mind grasp Brahman? No. Rather, because of Brahman, the mind is able to grasp. And then fire, Agnihi, represents speech. Can you say something to truly reveal Brahman? No. In other words, I can't call Brahman by a name like I say speaker. And therefore, by its light, all this shines. By its light, by its presence, all this exists. In other words, all that is here is mithya, and the truth of mithya is Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.